Next article, next generation spectacle lens aims to strengthen myopia control in children. A new article from the ophthalmologist highlights the launch of Essilor Stellest 2.0, a next generation spectacle lens designed to strengthen myopia control in children. The updated lens uses enhanced HALT Max technology to increase the optical signals believed to slow axial elongation, and early clinical data suggests that the new design may reduce eye growth nearly twice as effectively as the original Stellest lens. The development reflects the growing momentum behind non-invasive, spectacle-based myopia management as clinicians continue searching for stronger long-term control strategies for pediatric myopia. And Andrew, I want to turn this one over to you because I feel like, in our corner of the world, we already have, the longer and stronger long-term control strategies for pediatric myopia in orthokeratology. But what can you tell us about this article?
Yeah, we are at an interesting place in industry where in the US here, we just barely got generation one and now generation two is out. And I do, I'm not the biggest fan of all companies in our industry like Essilor, but I do commend them for, putting a lot of dollars into research and putting a lot of dollars into awareness. And I think it's a really great thing and really needed that they are pushing this forward so nicely. Um, uh, Also, it kind of reaffirms what we've kind of always known and suspected, and that's simply more plus is better. Um, you know, Going back to again what we have studies for and what we don't have studies for, I think that just adds to our um, understanding and confidence when we use either spectacles or other designs that, yeah, keep pushing that plus, keep maximizing that, mechanism that we always kind of suspected was at work there. And so great to see new products that are more effective. Yes, I agree with you. We already have other options that I think we have more flexibility with, but still, hard to complain about, getting more and better options.
Yeah, for sure. And Carrie, what do you think?
Well, they're leaning on a lot of the stuff that we've already discovered with Ortho-K, just by trial and error and doing other kinds of changes in the lens. But as Andrew said here, the increases in these lenslets that they call them, the asphericity inside the distortion they're creating. Which is getting better myopia control. But I'll say one other thing too with this thing. We have these. I think this. I keep this reminding my parents and parents in general about this. But when they do studies, they are talking about 100% of their patients. But in these studies, only 3, 4, maybe 50% of those patients respond really well to the results, and then you have the other ones that don't. They have different results. Some are okay, and some are not. And so you need to really have that with open eyes. Now the question is, if a Stellest, if they're wearing the glasses, the Stellest lenses, and they are not getting good results, you're not getting good myopia control. Will this increase help? Yes, probably will, but maybe not as much as you maybe changing to a different technology like MySight or Ortho-K or something else, or introducing atropine. So you got to keep your eyes open, no pun intended. But
Yeah.
this is a point is I think we find, and Andy can comment on this, I'd love to hear his opinion, but I find in the field that some technologies just don't work as well as others. I mean, I've been able to adjust Ortho-K lenses so they work for most everybody, but I have to adjust them quite a bit. But there are some technologies out there that if they don't work, then I'm looking at something else. I mean, if I've got, I'm going to switch, because I'm assuming then that even with an enhanced version that I can still go do better with another modality, like maybe MySight
Yeah.
instead of glasses, perhaps.
You absolutely nailed that, and that is something that absolutely a lot of patients don't seem to understand, and even a lot of doctors don't seem to understand when a product comes out and says, our study shows that we are 70% effective or whatever. That doesn't mean that every kid in the study slowed down 70%. What that means is that some kids slowed down 100% and some kids slowed down 20%. And of all those groups, they average out to that final number that they give. And the rubber meets the road where you're in the exam with the actual kid. And if you're getting 100% control, then by God, keep going. If you are getting 20% control, you probably should rethink that. If you are in a technology where you're getting much worse control than their advertised numbers, that doesn't mean stick with it. It'll probably get better. That means you've probably not matched that technology to that child very well. And and this shouldn't surprise anybody. In no other medical field or area does every treatment work for everybody. In no other situation does every medication have the same effect on everybody. But yeah, I think that sometimes that gets lost in myopia management, that is the case.
Yeah, there's not one answer, right? I mean, for everybody, there's just different answers.
Never.
And that's good for all of us because it gives us, that's why we have alternatives.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Well, and going back to actually one more point, one of the technology is always a double-edged sword. There are always going to be good things and bad things. One of the biggest concerns I have with technologies like the Stellest is there's a pretty low barrier to entry, and that creates a whole population of doctors who only offer that one option. And I fear if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail situation. And I would just, encourage everybody, providers, doctors, to be mindful of, that whole concept that please, at least try to offer a couple of different options. Please try to get versed with, everything if you can, but at minimum, 2-3 different myopia management options, because even having 2 or 3 options will make you so much more successful and do so much better for these kids than just sticking with one and giving it to everybody.
Absolutely.
It brings up this.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
No,
Carrie.
go ahead, man.
I think it's part of you bring up one of the most interesting dynamics of this conversation, Andrew, because if the majority of doctors are only implementing the spectacles and nothing else, to your point, but then there's the other side of that equation, which is, well, if they wouldn't have done anything to begin with, is there an advantage to them only prescribing the spectacles and you know what I mean? Like, is that going to become like, that's one of the points that I kind of highlighted to talk about. So I'm glad that you went into it. Like, it makes me wonder if spectacles are going to become the default first line intervention, in lieu of FDA approved atropine, low dose atropine. But like, because Tony Sommer brought up on this podcast before my interview with him, where he thinks that the spectacles are really going to open up the category because parents are already used to the idea that their kids need glasses. That's already part of the culture. So it's just an easier and more natural transition into like anti-myopia spectacles. So then the question that we're weighing here is, if every doctor is just doing spectacles, is that a net negative, or does that add a negative point when they wouldn't have normally have prescribed anything? What do you guys think?
Can I add another layer to this?
Please do.
All right. Well, supposing they're going to just do spectacles, right? Are they going to do follow-up? Are they going to measure axial length? They're going to be able to, tell if this is even working. It's an indictment on our profession, because we're turning out docs and colleagues that are not trained to do myopia management, and where do they get the exposure to it? Where do they get the teaching and the knowledge to be able to do it? So it's us. We're looking in the mirror. This is optometry talking. We're facing this challenge here, right? As Andrew brought up the point. And we need to, can you imagine going to a physician and getting a prescription for hypertension and not doing any follow-up? To see if the prescription's working or not. I mean, all of us would walk away from that doctor immediately, right? But we have a lot of our colleagues, that's what they're doing. They're not following up. And what is that saying?